I say, my mama told me that I've always been an early walker with my bow-legged feet. Had me walking kind of awkward, but it don't bother me. You see, my walk ain't always proper, but I still stand like a king because I be walking with my father. I be walking like my father. I be walking like my father. I be walking like my father loved. When life gets hard for me to walk through, I pray to God when I need someone to talk to. You know that feeling when your past starts to haunt you, you try to forget it, but it comes back to confront you, saying that I want you, hit you with a 1-2, rewind your mind and remind you of what a gun can do. See, them be the kind of feelings that I'm going through. And now I'm slowly having doubt, losing faith, and it's causing me to feel so confused, no longer amused, feel like I even lost my muse, forgot my purpose, forgot the fact that I'm just a tool. But how am I supposed to fix anything when I'm still trying to gather up my sanity? My heart is steadily beating rapidly. See, I'm panicking. Nobody's understanding me. Not even my family. In my own home, I felt alone, like they've abandoned me. I once sat on the throne, but I've been dethroned. It's like they banished me to the dungeon of the castle. But this ain't that kind of fantasy I fantasize about. It's just what I see when I sit and analyze my house, turn a doorknob, and then walk out, open my eyes to my surroundings. So so-called friends that have my back really have me surrounded. They said they're gonna hold me down. That must be why I feel so grounded. Can't get up, can't move, can't breathe. It's like I'm drowning, and it stopped being funny a long time ago. I kind of lost my smile, so y'all forgive me for frowning. Once learned how to crawl, walk, and run, but they never showed me how to climb over this mountain. And so I'm stuck. I'm in a drought like a dried up fountain. I'm in this rut, and I can't move. It's like I just can't get loose. It's like I just can't seem to win, but in my heart, I can't lose. Then I remember when life gets hard for me to walk through, run through, or even climb through, or when I'm at the point of, man, I am through. I talk to God, and he reminds me, you were made in my reflection, so I am in you. So get up and let's go, because there ain't nothing that we can't do. I open my eyes and I realize I'm no longer immobilized. I'm able to walk again. And mama told me that I've always been an early walker. With my bow-legged feet, it always had me walking kind of awkward, but that don't bother me. You see, my walk ain't always proper. I still stand like a king, because I be walking with the Father. I be walking like my Father. I be walking like my Father. Peace.
Broken by Violence welcomes you to another episode of Spoken, breaking the cycle of violence by not keeping silent. I'm your founder, Ebony Antoine, and today we have a special guest, Natriece Spicer. Welcome to Spoken. It's your turn, sis. Tell your story.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to just have an opportunity to do something that I don't do often, which is to speak directly about my experience with violence. And I'm excited to be a part of an organization that really helps people in a time of need. I remember how that felt. My story is not unique, actually. It's like a lot of urban Black girls. Like, I grew up in the projects in Bay Area, California, San Francisco, and I was already pre-exposed to violence at an early age. I grew up knowing that, particularly, to be honest, Black men had the propensity to kill other Black men. And that was probably my first awareness with what gun violence looks like, and being exposed to seeing that happening at a very young age really jarred me. And so when I got into a situation where I was hit for the first time in the face by a man who I loved, I thought to some extent that that was what it was supposed to be. And on a different, much more personal level, I also thought that the level of just my worth as a dark-skinned, poor Black girl in America meant that that was okay. Because of who I was. That could happen to me. And that was normal. And that's what we did. And so for a long time, I tried to process it that way. And so when I hear people talk about the ability of women to stay in dangerous situations and to allow themselves to be hurt. You know, a big part of what comes to the forefront for me is awareness and behavioral training. If I'm conditioned to be okay with seeing my peers hurt themselves and seeing people that I love hurt themselves and be hurt by each other, I'm already put in a mindset that this is supposed to happen to me. And so it wasn't this overnight situation where I just said, oh, this is wrong. It was hard to know that I cared about somebody so much, but have to fix black eyes, you know. I'll never forget the first summer that I spent with 2 black eyes, and all summer long I had to wear these like super big shades, like the Mary J. Blige shades were in. And like the thing about fashion and life and just society is you never know how what you see in the big picture is playing out in somebody's little life. I had the big shades, I had the cute little outfit, I had the big hair. We were going out, there was always like a food or something being held, right? And all of that was a distraction because my face was mangled. 2 weeks before, I had both my eyes blacked by the same guy, mind you, who he was a street guy. He dibbled and dabbled in crowds that I shouldn't have been a part of. And 2 weeks before that, we'd had an incident where he threw a brick at my face. And I think at that point, I felt, if there was ever a point where I felt invisible, and like I knew that there was something wrong, but I didn't have, 1, the gumption to know how to do something different, 2, the help to feel like I could talk without being ashamed or being put back in a situation or even just being judged, right? I knew that was a problem. And I couldn't process it then the way that I can now, to where I'm able to, have these different kinds of conversations with people like Ebony of Broken by Violence, but I knew that it wasn't, like, it didn't feel right. And I just kept saying, but if nobody's helping me, and if I can't help me, then am I even worth it? And so even at 22, right, I'm not like 15, but I'm not like 40. I'm young, right? College, career, mind you, like, let me tell y'all, like, it wasn't like I was just this girl who only lived in the projects, right? I'd gone to school, I'd been educated, I'd maintained a career, I'd had my own money, my own place. Like, I had a real life. And yet here I was, so silent, so afraid, so muted, and so conditioned mentally and emotionally that I felt like I wasn't worth somebody not beating my face in. He threw a brick at my face and I laid down and allowed him to apologize until 2 weeks later when he blacked both my eyes. And so I spent a whole summer with a mangled face, feeling like I was in this situation that I was scared to leave, but also that I didn't see where else I would go. What else would I do, right? Because he's protecting me from all the other bad guys, right? He buys me things, he's taking care of me, like he pays my bills, right? We for the most part do everything together. What life would I have? And who else would love me? Because where I come from, there were these kinds of guys. You don't date outside your race, and if you're not like a girl from the suburbs, no black guy from the suburbs gonna want you. He likes white girls. He likes light-skinned girls. He likes pretty girls. He likes smaller girls. He likes girls who hadn't been muted, right? But when you're in these situations, you don't understand that a big part of your invisibility is just that people have ignored you. And so it was a real hard process. And it wasn't this clean, cute conversation that I can have now, which is just the grace of articulation, but it was ugly. It was nasty. Like, I hear from my family, I went through a lot and I left that situation. And guess what? I went through it again and again, until like in the third time, I ended up watching my now last volatile relationship. He ended up being shot in front of me, and I ended up healing him, and I'm taking care of you and protecting you. And just 2 months before, you were name calling and fat shaming and, just like these things that we go through, and I look back and I feel for women and I feel for men who are in these situations where we lose people, you know, because I never lost someone else, but I spent almost 15 years dead, void of myself. I spent so much time watching life pass me by and just like dying over and over and over, all the times of just like being succumbed to seeing that kind of violence, seeing people hurt themselves, you know, and watching Black men over and over and over and over, just seeing these kinds of things replay and then having it happen in your bedroom, in your household. You know, now you are with somebody who's doing those things to you. The powerlessness is universal. And so like when there's opportunities to talk about like domestic violence and gun violence, and I know we love to separate the two, but I'm somebody who like I had to deal with both. It always seemed normal for somebody to hit me because I grew up watching people who looked like me kill each other. You know, you can never unlearn and unsee the things that you experience. And I'm thankful today, right? I'm thankful because it's such a beautiful story of like retribution, triumph, grace, mercy, love, power, growth, you know. But lest we not forget what it took to get here. And there's times when I just have to sit back and just say a little prayer, just send out a good vibe, because there's some woman who's stuck in a room. Like there's some woman who's crying right now. Her whole entire soul is somewhere in a garden. It hurts. You know, no matter how we lose, loss hurts. And to know that kind of pain, whether I know from burying myself or from seeing that another woman had to bury the love of her life, like I know that pain and it hurts. Like gun violence is real. This stuff is real and it gets embedded. My very first time seeing anything criminal was my godmom having a gun being pulled on her and being shot by my then godfather. You know, like you laugh to keep from crying, but like this stuff is real. And so when I think back to all the things that I've been through and all the things I've endured, I'm grateful. I count it all joy. I charge not animosity. I don't have one vicious bone in my body. I kid you not. I still pray for them. I wish them well. The guy that threw the brick at my face just hit me the other day. I'm sorry. I want to apologize. I'm not mad. I don't have no hatred in my heart, to the point where even when I talk about it, I need people to know that hurt people hurt people. He was a hurt person, because you can't heal people if you hurt still. And so that's my story. That's why I share. That's why it matters to me, is because I know that if I can be healed, if I can move forward, if I can take in all the toxicity and the garbage and the death that life tried to give me, and I can be life and I can illuminate and I can love, I know that we can vibrate in that power. I know that we can help somebody else. And so I will tell my story. I will share my bruises. I will talk about my ugly moments to whomever, however, and whenever, because I was hurt and I got healed. So maybe somebody else.
That was powerful. And you are no longer muted. Your voice is freeing and liberating. Your tears make room and ways for others to walk through the path from hurt to healing. And so the one question that bubbles up in me as I sit with you and sit with your tears, okay, is what do you say to that hurt young girl who is wondering what to do next? What's her next right move?
The first thing I did after that first time when I left my first abuser, breathe. Inhale and exhale. 5 count. 5 count, sis. You don't got to get up. And this is godly word. You don't got to get up. You don't got to believe. You don't got to be motivated. You don't have to trust your gut. I don't care about none of that, girl. Just breathe. Just breathe through it intentionally. And I guarantee you that oxygen is going to get you some sense. And as the universe sends you signs, you will know what to do. But just breathe. Just breathe. And it's okay to do nothing else.
Listen, that's a whole word for everybody right now. To sometimes when we are stunned by experiences that are beyond our power and control, that sometimes we want to do so much, when the call to action is to simply breathe, because that's the hardest thing to do. So we breathe now. We breathe for the young girl, and we breathe for that hurt young man, that king, that because he did not experience the power that automatically lived in him, he exerted the only power that he could. I heard you say, hurt people, hurt people. What do you say to the hurt young man?
To the hurt young man, I say, allow yourself to be human. Allow the opposite of the feeling that you have been feeling. I know that there's a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, a lot of pain. Allow yourself to feel the alienation, the mutation, the despair, and the need. And then allow that voice to tell you how to calm the other voice, because you don't have to stay guilty. You don't have to stay hurt. You can be a person who heals people. Allow yourself to be someone who does that for you by forgiving you for who you are, for who you've been, and for what's been done to you. It's okay.
And with that, you're no longer silent. So we're breaking cycles of violence by allowing individuals to consider the power of the breath, the power of forgiveness of others, and the weight that comes with allowing yourself to experience the generous gift of forgiveness for self. And forgiveness comes through accountability and grace. And so with that, we honor your story and we close out this segment with a word.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. And lead with love.
That was a great ending. This segment of Broken by Violence has been a beautiful experience with a domestic violence survivor and gun violence survivor, but beyond that, a breather at heart. If you know someone who is being impacted by violence, make sure that you encourage them to reach out for help and sit in solidarity until they make the decision to do differently and breathe. Our final comments come from our founder, Ebony.
I first want to thank you, sis, for your strength, for your story, because it's empowering. Watching that transformation, knowing the woman that I know today, I thank you. I see who you are. I'm glad that you're not where you were. I thank everyone for tuning in, and I thank you for the opportunity again for tuning in to Broken by Violence Spoken. We are breaking the cycle of violence by not keeping silence. Please join us with our next episode. Thanks again for tuning in.